Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Jason Lehman. I'm the marketing team lead here at Fishbowl Solutions. Happy to be joined by my colleague, Tom Johnson. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
And for the next 30 minutes, we're going to show you how you can speed up Oracle WebCenter check-ins and metadata updates with the new uploading and tagging solution that Fishbowl offers. So before I cover the agenda items, I wanted to get some housekeeping items out of the way. The first one is this webinar is being recorded. So anyone that registered will be sent a link to the recording, probably within a day, so that you can watch it again if you miss anything. Also forward that on to colleagues. The other housekeeping item is if you have questions throughout the webinar, please go ahead and submit those to the Zoom interface. There's a little question Q&A applet that you can click on. Type your question in there, and we will be monitoring those questions throughout the webinar. So here is our agenda. So I'm going to just quickly familiarize everyone with who Fishbowl is, what we do, and why we're different. I'm going to cover off some of the business problems that we see out there right now with content management deployment, specifically WebCenter, obviously. Also, make sure everyone's aware, we understand as well there's multiple ways to check in and contribute content, but each one of those does have some difficulty as you compare them across other ones. So as you think about those ways and what we introduce you today, you should have a good picture and comparison and how you can best check in content and get other users to check in content within your organization. So then we'll be switching over to Tom to kind of really give you a look at what this multi-upload and batch metadata editor solution looks like, how you can use it. And within that demo, he'll be showing you and kind of speaking to some of the use cases that we've already helped customers and have success with those use cases with this solution. We'll summarize everything, and then we will look to answer those questions at the end. So just a quick minute on Fishbowl Solutions. So our overall goal is to help customers solve their costly and frustrating knowledge sharing problems. And since 1999, we've been working with Oracle WebCenter. We'll be specializing in enterprise content management and portal solutions, helping organizations better manage, retain, and distribute the content in their organizations through enhanced desktop and mobile experiences. We also help organizations leverage Oracle's Content and Experience Cloud, really focusing there on developing omni-channel experiences for their digital content. Most recently, we've been developing mobile applications and creating chatbots or virtual assistants for customer service and sales enablement using Oracle's autonomous mobile cloud enterprise platform. And then to help you find all the high-value content within your organization, we provide enterprise search software and services for both on-premise and cloud-based use cases, leveraging Mindbreeze and Google Cloud. So with the Fishbowl overview out of the way, let's really dig into why we're here. And why we're here is to really help organizations better maximize their investment with WebCenter from a contribution perspective. So I think we're all familiar with the benefits of content management, but as you look at your use case with WebCenter, your organization, would you consider your implementation a success? Just because you've had it rolled out for 7 years, is that part of the criteria that you would measure success, or is it really getting more users to use the system, expanding it with other departments, really to build up this knowledge sharing, more knowledge management organization where you have multiple users contributing content, kind of feeding that knowledge engine, and then distributing your content through your value add channels. So as you look at that and consider if you have user contribution, and if you were able to increase that, what does WebCenter, from a contribution perspective today is kind of, providing a hindrance to that contribution so you can really expand and see more adoption within your organization. So considering those business problems, we're going to show you and introduce how Fishbowl's multi-uploader and batch metadata editor solution really provides that interactive experience to contribute content both at the user level and from an administrative, more batch load perspective. So I'm not going to go through all these, but taking from some of what the industry analysts have said, there are many reasons that ECM initiatives or projects fail, and it comes down to your own organization's criteria for measuring the success of your ECM system. But what I can say, and what we're going to speak to and show today, is the disregard for adoption is definitely a criteria that a lot of organizations look at when they consider an ECM project or the technology that they deployed to be a success. So if it provides a simple user experience and you're able to get some of that critical mass where you have multiple people across many departments contributing content, that could be a success. But if disregarding that level of adoption, when you consider if that system makes it harder or makes the individual that should be contributing content, if there's additional work necessary to do that, you won't get that critical mass adoption. And what plays into that is this next one. So number 6 that I've highlighted here is really ignoring the impact of the user experience. So what does the day in the life for your users really look like, and understanding how they create content, interact with content, and what they need to do with it. And then really, within their process and their use case for their responsibilities, does content management make their job easier and better from when they contribute content, and what happens after they've contributed that content? So what we've seen is, with the result of the lack of content contribution within an organization, again, I'm sure everyone's familiar with, if there's not one central system that is kind of that single source of truth within an organization, as administrators out there, I'm sure you've seen desktops full of content, file shares full of content. Other third-party systems might have actually encroached on WebCenter within your organization, SharePoint, Box.net. What that all leads to is this disparate content storage, and so content just becomes harder to find and reuse. We've also seen where users not contributing content to the system become a bottleneck to a workflow process. So if that system, the contribution process is difficult for them, they want to avoid it, but they're part of a workflow, the content that they're contributing is part of a workflow, it doesn't get in, it can actually delay those more value workflow processes. And then what you end up with is system avoidance and lack of adoption. So that really drives down the amount of WebCenter ROI that your organization can realize. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we understand we've been doing this for a long time. You've probably explored other ways to contribute content into the system. And I just thought it was funny, going back through some of the old content that we have here at Fishbowl, I came across a presentation from the 2006 Crescendo Conference, going all the way back to Universal Content Management, of 50 ways to check in content. So a little tongue-in-cheek, understandably, but you know, there's very traditional, familiar ways to check in content. A lot of customers might use desktop integration suite, ADF UI, and then from an admin perspective, there's the batch loader. Well, we'll just say again that with each one of these, there's a certain level of configuration and more administration that's necessary. For example, the ADF UI, I guess that'd probably be the newest way to contribute content. You can't customize that UI, so that's one of the drawbacks of using that. So again, what we want to introduce here is that there's many ways to do it. We want to show you a new way, make it more interactive from a user and an admin perspective to get content into the system, so that you can provide a way for your users that are contributing or creating content that's of high value, that your organization wants to retain and repurpose, reuse, to make sure that you are getting that critical mass from an expectation standpoint in your organization of that content management ROI. And so if the way users are contributing content today doesn't meet that because of you're not considering the amount of content that needs to get checked in and who's going to do it, because the fallback is, well, someone else can always do it, and usually that falls to an admin, or the immediacy of when content needs to get into the system. So we'll kind of explore that a little bit in the demo, where if you're working with a third party and you get assets from that third party that have to get into WebCenter for review or just for a retention perspective, you know, how quickly does that need to happen? And if it falls to more of the traditional, more, you know, batch loading configuration type of getting content into the system with metadata updates, that can delay the availability of that content into the system. And then really also understanding your users, right? So I'm sure you've all heard the digital native. They're just looking for a way to make it really easy to contribute content and give them that experience that they're used to, to just basically upload documents, tag them, and go about their day. So with that, considering the business problems, we've come up with a solution that we feel makes it very easy for users and administrators to contribute content into WebCenter. So if you're viewing one of the problems as that time-consuming check-in and metadata update process, so considering not only the check-in process of just getting content in, but once content's in the system and you want to apply mass metadata updates, the time it takes to do that, if that's a problem, multi-uploader and batch metadata can help with that. So its two core features are really that drag and drop interface to select files from a file system or wherever they're located, and then assign metadata, either right away as you pull them over or later. And Tom will show that in the demo. And then after content's already in WebCenter and does have some metadata values, well, let's say you want to change some of those metadata values, Tom will also show how you're able to do that with this solution. And so as you consider use cases, we've helped customers on the marketing, more creative services side, manage their digital assets, just simply because of what I mentioned earlier, they might be working with a third-party creative agency and they're getting photographs and other images as part of a campaign or to put together a brochure or a catalog, and those assets have to get into WebCenter for workflow or for uploading and distributing through other channels. We've also seen legal and compliance, where the same thing. There's legal documents that are part of a transaction, for example. Same thing, they have to get loaded into WebCenter for retention and more management, and even part of a workflow as well. But really, we feel, and hopefully as you see the demo, you'll come to understand that this can really be used no matter your use case. It presents a new interactive way, much easier, streamlined way to contribute content into WebCenter. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom quickly to kind of speak to how, out of the box, I mentioned the two core features, but this solution, like all our solutions, can be easily customized to provide additional value. Tom, why don't you touch on this customer success story for us?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So essentially what we had here was a unique case of a real estate company, and a real estate management company. And so what they would do is, if they, say, acquired a building or were selling a building, they'd get these physical CDs, which was a compilation of all the property documents related to that property. And they wanted to get these checked in, as quickly as possible. And where out of the box fell short, they had these users who took all of the documents and just checked them into a single folder and didn't tag any metadata on them just to get them in. So what their issue was is no one else was really able to find them. So what we helped them with using multi-uploader, we provided a customization on top of not only being able to insert and check in these documents quickly, we were also able to add some automation to the process where inside this bundle of documents there was a index file, and on that index file was a lot of metadata that pertained to each of the documents inside the bundle. And so what we were able to do is, while bulk uploading these, we were able to grab that index file, parse some metadata out, and tag it on the documents themselves. So all the user had to do was drag all the files in. It was able to tag the metadata, and then at the end they were able to just validate that all of the metadata that was needed was in fact parsed correctly. Otherwise they could, with multi-uploader and metadata tagger, they were able to make the few tweaks that they needed to, and then just hit submit, and all of those documents were then tagged with actual metadata that pertained to each one. And so then they were much more accessible via searches or anything like that to actually find these documents.
Awesome, thanks Tom. Great customer success story there. So we want to show you what this looks like. We want to show you some interaction with the solution from a demo perspective. So what you're going to see now and what Tom's going to show is he's going to show how to contribute content to the system, tag it, show you a workspace feature. So as you get content into the system and you're not, let's say you don't have time or you want to come back and tag it later, show you this workspace feature that allows you to do that, as well as what that tagging process actually involves. So the feature, another feature of batch multi-upload and batch metadata editor is the ability to tag content as after it's already been in the system for a while, and it'll show you how to do that as well. So with that, I'm going to transfer over to Tom, and he will give you the demo.
All right. So now hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to log in here to our environment. And really what I want to show you is how easy it really is to contribute this content into WebCenter and how you can contribute a lot of content at one time. So from the home page, you obviously have your check-in profiles, and with multi-uploader, you get this new option at the bottom. So you still have your you still have your unique profiles, but you have this additional multi-check-in option. And so here is the interface. It's really simple. It's really clean. So users coming to this will know exactly what they have to do. And so with that, I'll start my demo with the scenario that I'm going to use is kind of a marketing or maybe a creative service business user that's either just received a whole bunch of assets that they need to contribute, or maybe they created these assets themselves and they need to get them into WebCenter so that they can be used maybe online or in a catalog of some sort. So the files I'm going to contribute are on my desktop. And so right here, I've got a group of files that I want to contribute in. And one thing to notice too on the multi-check-in page is you can do a quick check-in where it's just going to get those files in, or if you open this, you actually have the same profiles you have in the new check-in option. So I'm going to select the marketing profile, and I'm going to drag those files over. You also can click choose files, and it will then browse your computer so you can grab them that way as well. But I personally am a fan of dragging and dropping, very simple. So you just copy those over, and what you'll see here is now some visual cues. You're seeing how or what stage in the process these documents are in. So you can see each file that I dragged over is in this list, and you can see that they are checked in and they're now being converted. So that's kind of the IVR process of, these are images and they potentially need multiple renditions, or maybe it's a Word document that needs to be converted to PDF. So you can see it doesn't take too long, but it gets converted, and then once it collapses like this, now they are all indexed and in the system. So you have a couple options down here at the bottom. I can start with the delete. If maybe you grabbed an item that you weren't actually wanting to check in, you could select just that item and delete it out of the system right away. You can email. So this is going to pop up an email and then provide you with a link to where each of these documents are in the system. So you could then send that to someone. And then there's also the tagging option. So that's what I'll click here to then be able to tag these items. And just another option is upload more. It'll provide you with another draggable and droppable area where you can tag more content in or drop more content in immediately. So I'll hit tag, and now what you're presented with is somewhat of a spreadsheet feel where it's got a row for each item that I checked in. On the left, what's really nice is a thumbnail in case you need a little more information. It kind of helps you remember which item is which. So that's a really clean way of seeing, especially for assets, digital assets, I should say. You can see exactly what you're checking in. And then here's the metadata that pertains to the profile I'm checking in. So what you can see here is it parsed the title of the file into the title here, but if you wanted to change that, you can certainly come in here and do so. And then also on the far right, we've got this customer metadata field. and say for this bulk upload, they're all Fishbowl solutions. So I select it for this one, and then what I'm able to do is drag and then tag this for multiple items. So you can see I'll drag and drop it all the way down because all of these are Fishbowl solutions. So you can see there, it's really nice. And then when you're done with their metadata updates, you just hit submit. It'll go through and it'll tag all that metadata on those items. So they are now tagged and released into the system. And so if I went back to my workspace, if I just did a quick search, those items are now going to show up right here. You can see they're in, and then they are tagged with the metadata that we updated. One other option that you have with the multi-file uploader, and Jason alluded to it earlier, is if you're wanting to just get these items checked in and you want to tag them later. So I'm just going to grab a few of these and just check them in again as a separate check-in. Just get them quick checked into the system. And then if you say had to leave for the day and you're going to tag them the next day or something like that. So say you're coming back into the system, you're going to go under My Content Server, and then you have this My Workspace option. So here is essentially your workspace. This is where these items are getting stored when you first initially tag them. They're not released and searchable by everyone. They're put in a special account that only your user is able to see as the contributor. But you're able to select those items, and then you're able to select a profile similar to what you could do earlier, and then you can tag that content. So same thing as earlier. Say when these ones are Oracle, I'll go through and tag those. So it's really simple to add that metadata. And then the last thing I really wanted to show was, say there were items that were already contributed into the system, but you wanted to update them in bulk. Say all of the items we checked in just then were tagged as Oracle when really they should have been Fishbowl or something like that. You can run a search, so you could do a quick search, you could do whatever search to get you back the information you need. And then you have a couple additional options for you. So here you can select the ones you're wanting to re-tag, and then you have this advanced tagging actions item. You can tag selected or tag all. And what that's going to do is bring you back here to where you can configure the columns that are shown. So you can see here there are all of the columns shown in the in your system. So you can open this up and just uncheck the ones you no longer want, things like that, and then you can go through and say these were all tagged as Oracle, and I wanted them tagged as Google. So you can select that, scroll all the way down, tag them all, and then submit those updates. So that's essentially those three options that you kind of get with this tool.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, of course.
All right. All right. So hopefully with that demo, you saw a new way to very easily contribute content in the system, tag it, or come back and tag it later from the workspace perspective, as well as apply those mass metadata updates. So really, the purpose of our webinar today was to really introduce that new solution to you, get you thinking about new ways to help your organization get more value-add content, high-value content in the system, because we feel with more users comes more ROI from a WebCenter perspective. Really thinking about where this content, if it's not being shared, it loses some of its value, but if it was shared, what other channels, what's the reach of that content throughout your organization? Not only from a knowledge sharing perspective, but more this process-centric perspective where, in the example we shared, marketing assets, getting those served up to the appropriate channel, be it your website, portal, or mobile device. And as well that, a lot of when you're introduced with users that are seeing these forms for the first time to contribute content, but then add a bunch of metadata, obviously if they're not applying a lot of the metadata to those items, well, then those items are harder to find. So with this process, more interactive, being able to do it from a mass update perspective, you'll find that you'll have better tagged items, which then become easier to find within WebCenter. As well as from the administrative standpoint. So Tom showed, I think there was 13 assets initially that he pulled over in the demo, but we also spoke to the use case. That use case for that customer, the CDs or DVDs that they're getting contain hundreds of various content items that they're pulling over and tagging and getting into the system as well. Just wanted to bring to your attention, and if you do have questions, you can reach out to Tom or myself, speaking on the webinar today, but also contact your account rep at Fishbowl. I did also want to mention we have an additional webinar coming up, and that is on chatbots. So if you want to learn anything on chatbots, if you've heard about chatbots and you want to hear about how Fishbowl and Oracle are partnering to deliver customer service-based chatbots, come learn about chatbots and see the technology and how we're doing and how we're have that partnership for that purpose-built chatbot for customer service. So hopefully in 30 minutes we're able to show you this new way to consider contributing content into WebCenter, both to get it in quickly and provide this interactive way to do that, but also applying those very critical metadata updates for the content that exists in your organization. And so with that, we want to thank you for attending. We would definitely, any feedback that you have regarding the presentation, would always like to hear from our customers on the content we're providing to them, and is it of value? So let us know. Let us reach out and let us know. But now I'm going to sign off. I want to thank you again for attending. I want to thank my colleague Tom for the demo.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And hopefully you can join our next webinar. So for any more information on our webinars, go to our website. All our webinars are listed on our homepage. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.